Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to every single person watching this video. I hope you guys are having a beautiful existence. Greetings and salutations from beautiful Vilcabamba, Ecuador. In this video, we are going to talk about cultivating compassion for yourself, for your individual subjective experience of the universe, for this mind body spirit complex that you are currently experiencing life through. So in my particular case, the mind body spirit complex that I am experiencing this existence through at the moment, where the majority of my consciousness hangs out, is Saeed, this human being with this identity of Saeed. The mind of Saeed, the body of Saeed, the spirit inhabiting Saeed, right? So we're gonna be talking about cultivating compassion for this self when we say this particular self here, because the expanded self is all other forms of self, right? And of course, if you could cultivate compassion for this self, you could cultivate compassion for all other selves, right? So the tendency, of course, as you begin to awaken, as a being begins to awaken, as a mind body spirit complex begins to awaken, the tendency goes towards, of course, cultivating or working on yourself, right? So you begin to awaken, you begin to realize that you're first of all, you are greater than you were told. You were told you're this little thing, right? This little thing, and you begin to awaken to your expanded self, the expanded nature of self, and you begin to awaken to love, and you begin to awaken to serving others, and you begin to awaken to these higher virtues, right? You begin to awaken to virtues like courage. You begin to act in a more courageous manner. You awaken to service. You begin to serve other people. You awaken to compassion. You begin to put yourself in other people's shoes. You awaken to goodness in general, right? Just being more of a good person in the world, right? And you begin to awaken to these things, and then you say to yourself, well, I'm really awakening up to a lot of things here, and I'm gonna really work on myself to be a better person. I know I'm angry, so I'm gonna try to be less angry. I'm gonna try to be kinder to other people. I'm gonna try and have more energy, right? And so you start to do all these things. You begin to fast, right? You're gonna clean up your body. You begin to meditate. You begin to try and become more of a calm person. You begin to tell yourself things like, I'm gonna let go of anger. I'm gonna let go of frustration, forgiveness. You begin to cultivate virtues like forgiveness. You start to forgive other people who have wronged you in the past. And as you do that, you begin to hold yourself to a higher standard of being, right? You awaken, you say, well, I'm more awakened now, so I'm going to be a better person, I'm going to be a better human. And you go on about life, you really do your best, right? You wake up every day, you meditate, you fast, you do all these things, you do all these practices, all these health protocols, mental wellness, right? You take cold showers, you do everything you can in your power to be a better human being. But still, in your efforts to be in a more perfected state, you find yourself losing your temper. You find yourself getting angry at others. You find yourself resenting of somebody else. You may say to yourself, well, I think I forgave my mom for doing this to me. But then you find your mom says something, and you realize, whoa, like demons come out of you, and you're full of resentment to her. So despite you doing your best, despite you knowing about forgiveness, cultivating calmness, and being grounded, still you find yourself getting angry, getting frustrated, being resentful of others. And in those moments, you judge the hell out of yourself, because you hold yourself to those new standards, because you've awakened, right? And you hold yourself to these new standards, right? In your head, you're supposed to be equanimous, forgiving, kind, calm, and non-attached, right? But here you are, still experiencing having those past demons come to you, and experiencing anger, experiencing frustration, experiencing resentment, experiencing chaos. And in those moments, you can't help but judge yourself. Oh, you should be better. Saeed, you should be better than that, right? You really should be better than that. You really be hard on yourself in those moments. And in those moments, I invite you, as I invite myself, to cultivate compassion to yourself. Now, where is that compassion to yourself coming from? Well, let me use myself here as an example, because the one thing for me that still pops up is anger, right? That's one thing that still comes up to me every now and then, is that I'll get angry about something, or I'll get angry at someone. And in those moments, I tend to be hard on myself. I tend to say, well, Saeed, you shouldn't be angry. Come on, you know this, right? You know this, you know this. You've been awakened now for some time, right? You've awakened to your true essence as cosmic love, as kindness, as compassionate awareness. How dare you be angry, right? How dare you be angry? Come on. How can you be so stuck in your human incarnation? Can't you be more of your expanded self, your loving, compassionate awareness, true self, the deeper parts of yourself? Why are you angry, right? So I have a tendency to be hard on myself in those moments, and then I realize, well, hold on. Let me try and be more compassionate to myself. Let me not feel guilty. Let me just accept this manifestation. Well, I'm angry right now. Sure, okay, I've awakened to certain things, but I'm still getting angry from time to time. Let me accept that. Let me just be compassionate. Let me understand why this anger is still happening. So, this compassion will take me back often to childhood for me to be more compassionate to myself. Will often take me back to childhood, and well, I'll say something like, well, okay, Saeed, you grew up in the Middle East, right? Middle East, in a very conservative family, in a very conservative culture, right? Conservative is Muslim conservative, right? Because the word conservative is not bad. Certain level of conservatism is good, right? Especially right now, for instance, in the United States of America, right? The Democrats and liberals are destroying the fabric of society. But in my specific case, I grew up in a conservative, fundamentalist, almost really like Muslim family, where domestic violence was the normal thing there, not just in my household, but in all households almost, practically in all households. Domestic violence was the norm. External, outside violence in on the streets in society was the norm, right? So when I say domestic violence, I'm talking about abuse, physical abuse here, right? That was the norm, okay? And so I was abused in the house, physically, but so was my father, who was abused by his father, who was abused by his father. So this is the norm in those cultures, and it is slowly changing right now, thanks to the new generation who's becoming more aware that these things cannot happen anymore, right? But physical abuse, beating up your kids, is the norm there, right? Fighting on the streets is the norm there. You have to fight to protect yourself, right? So you grew up in a violent society where physical violence is the norm there, and that causes anger and frustration in the child, right? And that's why you grow up, you become a father, you continue to pass that down onto your children, this anger and frustration in the way you were brought up. So another thing, for example, is you grow up and you have all boys school, all girls school. Girls are demonized for boys are demonized for girls. You're not supposed to interact with the opposite sex. So sexual frustration, basically, right? Everybody there is sexually frustrated, and that certainly was the case for me as well, right? So that creates anger and frustration. So on and on. I can evaluate childhood here, my childhood, Saeed's childhood, this mind body spirit complex, spirit childhood, right? And I can evaluate that, and I can be like, whoa, you have a 1,001 reasons to be angry. You see, And so then it makes me understand why I still have some of these anger programs come up in me every now and then, right? The way things were resolved in my family, when you had family arguments, was through shouting and physical abuse, physical violence, right? Shouting. That was the way. Being distant from one another, that was the way in which you resolve conflict in my family growing up, you see. So then whenever, these times where I have anger still now in my adulthood, in my quote-unquote awakened state, right? Another trap here, you say I'm awake, right? And I still see some of these anger programs present themselves against some of these demons, then, I kind of really, when I see the whole picture, I can't help now but be like, you know what? I'm gonna have compassion for myself here. I'm not gonna feel guilty for this. I'm not gonna put pressure on myself here to be like, no, Saeed, you gotta act better than this. It is what it is. There's still work to be done, and it's alright. I'm gonna let this work do itself. The more I try, the less I succeed. The more I accept myself in the moment, I accept my anger, I accept my demons, I accept the programs that still come up. The more I have compassion for myself, the more, paradoxically, my behavior changes for the positive. Right? In a way, the process at some point becomes not to do something, but to have, not to do change to yourself, but have change do itself to you. Right? When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. So then, when you find yourself in these moments of anger, frustration, resentment, like you find yourself like not being able to forgive someone, but you know intellectually, and your soul knows, and you say, of course, forgiveness liberates karma, liberates you from your karma, liberates others from their karma, of course, forgiveness. But then you still find yourself not being able to forgive. The first person you ought to forgive yourself is yourself for not being able to forgive yet. So forgive yourself, have compassion for yourself for not yet being able to embody more of those higher qualities, more of those higher virtues yet. Okay? Because once you awaken, you're well on your way. Once you're awakened, you've got to just let the process do itself through you. Right? The more you try, the less you succeed. And that's having compassion for yourself, folks. Having compassion for yourself is having compassion for yourself in those moments where you're less than perfect, less than godly. You have to realize that we are all highly traumatized by our upbringings. That to be a living being, a living entity born on earth in these difficult times, in these reptilian times, is to be a traumatized living being, whether it's an animal, a human being, or a plant. And the beauty of it is that human beings have the power to heal themselves, totally heal themselves, liberate themselves, free themselves from all this trauma. If you want to fully heal your body, you fast, folks. Dry fasting, water fasting, Shivambu fasting, urine therapy, fruitarianism. There are many ways to go on about healing, right? Certain herbs can help you with the healing process also. So the beautiful thing, and then if you want to also release some of those emotional traumas, you could do things like screaming, yelling, bioenergetics, catharsis, many different ways of releasing demons, releasing entities, and healing one's body and one's mind. The beautiful thing about human, we can totally heal ourselves and embody our godly state. But if you're not there yet, don't worry about it. It's a process, and it's quite a process, and it takes time. It really does take time. So be easy on yourself. Have compassion for yourself. The first being to have compassion for is yourself. The first being to forgive is yourself. So forgive yourself for not being perfect. Forgive yourself for being less than godly. Forgive yourself for being a human. Forgive yourself for having all these negative emotions. Have compassion for yourself. See that you are you're fighting against the odds in many ways. And in that forgiveness, in that compassion for yourself, you will see yourself change for the positive without really trying. The more you try, the less you succeed, really. Once you're awakened, you've got to sort of sit back and let the process do its thing through you. You can't help but become God. You can't help but self-realize at this point. Rant over. I hope you guys got something out of this video. I love all of you. I would like to send gratitude for everybody watching. Send further gratitude for the people who are monthly patrons, and for the people who send generous one-time donations via PayPal. I love you guys. If you would like to support this channel financially, I have links for Patreon, links for PayPal in the description. You could either get on Patreon, $2 a month, and just be sort of a regular monthly patron, supporter of this channel, or you can send us one-time donations on PayPal. Those two options are available in the description if that's something you're interested in. Otherwise, keep watching, keep listening. I love you guys. I love every single one of you. And until next time, may the force be with you.